tap like now, share right now, and subscribe to this channel at the link below.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of Chat with Venki. Today we have an esteemed guest. So before I introduce Mr. Sriram, let me tell you a story. So this thing happened 2 years ago. I went to see Steve Vai in Pune, NH7. See, I've heard your song, okay. I've heard, but I've never seen you guys live. So you majorly perform in Chennai and here. So I was there. And of course, being a guitarist, I'm a fan for Steve Vai. I came that day to NH7 to watch Steve Vai. And I was there, the guys were performing, of course, killing it. Steve Vai took the stage and the crowd didn't left. Didn't leave.
Yeah, it was damn good for me. I was just like, don't leave. Please, right here, don't worry. It'll just take 5 steps to get to Steve Vai. So just stay here, please.
Wow, man. I know I've heard all your songs, but shamelessly, it might make you feel a bit sad probably, but my favorite song till date is Samurai Badass.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's quite a cool... I think it might be one of my favorites also. One of my favorites. Then I've got 40.
But especially because of the start. Watashi no kata no nawa wa Scrattomaru.
That was actually...
It is Karu no kata no nawa.
It was fun. It's Karu no kata no nawa wa Scrattomaru. So it's basically a friend of mine, Ashwath Nair, who's also a photographer and a long-time well-wisher and friend of mine. And he basically is a Japanese fiend. Like, he loves everything about it. So, and he knows a little bit of Japanese. So I said, okay, listen, there's this song and I want to say something. And is this what... we put the mic in front of him and said, go. So this is what the song is, go. And he just basically just said random, like just went on and on and on. And then we're like, okay, cool. Maybe we should just let the song play. And then you just do voiceovers over the song. And then we'll choose what we want. And inherently, he did the whole thing with context. So he made it and, wrote the Japanese parts for the song and all that. I was just like, wow, fantastic.
The best word was after that, Hajime! And like, let's start. And that's where the song started.
It has begun.
Wow, man. So I have a bit like, of course, we are missing your best bandmates. So I thought play with a bit. So we have the two guys.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I like the fact that you're a part of the band now for me.
Damn, man.
Nice.
But why are you staring at people? Why so much anger?
Because it's a rock band, no.
Like,
nobody's gonna come for this show, man. Like, it's just weird to have a show like this, right? Like, hey, we're in a rock band. Didn't you hear? Come, buy one, get one free offer. Come over and we'll give you some candy. It's not gonna work.
You better come to my rock show, eh? That will sell tickets.
Don't ask for guest list. That's basically it.
But like, look at Janu. He's sitting like some Rajinikanth movie hero type. Maybe
because he is a Rajinikanth movie hero. That's it. He's the one who made the music for, who played the riff for Kabali's intro theme. That was him. So, yeah, Kabali intro theme, that Nirupida intro theme was him. So he's already got it in his blood.
That one. Wow. And was this picture taken during that time?
Probably was actually. Probably around the time.
With this background thing, I learned something. I can vanish.
Oh yeah, with a towel. That's fantastic.
That's magic. So, coming back.
It's magic.
You are essentially a salesman. You're into sales. You are a rock guitarist and a frontman.
Yes.
And at just when you have some free time, you drive bikes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That's actually probably my biggest passion is the motorcycles. So definitely, whenever I have time, I'll just run to the racetrack.
Let me show my viewers what we are actually talking about. I have a picture of you on racetrack. I stalked you a lot. I stalked you so much, and then I found one picture where I hope I got the right picture.
Oh yeah! Wow, that's the old bike that I go. Oh yeah, correct. That was at least 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe. Fantastic. Wow. Yeah, that's actually a KTM Duke, first gen Duke that we built to look like that and ride like that.
You are a Duke fan?
Fan, I'm not entirely sure. They're very good for the racetrack. Everywhere else, they are okay. But I like them. I like them on the racetrack. The RC and the Duke, the twins, they're pretty good on the racetrack. But they belong on the racetrack, honestly. Because on the street, they're just like, everybody is riding them like breakneck speed, and it's sort of they're serious machines. You shouldn't street race with them, and most people use it for street racing, so which is a problem. But they're damn good though on the racetrack.
What do you ride on street then?
I ride a Triumph Truxton R, which is a sort of a cafe racer from
See, with my questions, you might think I know a lot about bikes. I don't. I am a noob.
Yeah, that's why I'm being very, very thorough with my explanations. So that's what I ride on the street. It's the most relaxed, looks good, and honestly, I even use the Truxton R even for my long rides, because even though it's all the way down, it's a lot more comfortable. There's no backache issue, and quite soft, and no issues actually. I actually find it a lot more comfortable than upright bikes to ride on the highway.
What about like the Avenger ones? Like you lay back a bit.
Maybe after I'm 50. When I have no longer any abs left to hold my stomach in, I'll definitely and then grow a big mustache and put a shotgun in the front.
With a Nerupada music in the background, eh?
Yeah, with Nerupada music in the definitely there'll be a music system. We're not going to save weight on some cruiser, so we'll put one music system at the back. Why? I don't need a music system. I'll make Jaro sit at the back and play the theme when I'm riding.
Wow, man! Like for like before calling you guys, like, see, I love indie music. I listen to a lot of indie music, but here now there is a bit of fanboy coming out. Okay, see, okay. It might freak you out, it might weird you out, but just be with me. Something like that. Dude, I love your songs, man. Like, Tin Can Man was an all-time favorite for me. For me, when I heard you guys first was the original album, and a lot of songs that I still relate with you guys is you guys have become more heavier. With Bison, though, it's altogether separate only. But the thing that I feel is, like, say, take a Tin Can Man. I'll not headbang, but I'll dance to it. That dancing element is still there. I still feel like dancing to your songs when you come out with. There is energy, there is power, but the fun part of why I liked a scratch song is still there. No, that's the thing, no? The litmus is if you make music only to headbang, nobody will come for your show. See, we need people to come to shows. And we're generally not very angry people. We're okay. We're not. We're slightly angry at sometimes, and then most of the time we're just like So punk rock and sort of like just easier. That's what comes out at the end. Every time we'll make something really heavy and be like, yeah, we've killed it. And then all of us will do that thing where we'll play it a few times at least to see whether the song is setting with us. And then as you play it, like, it's a little serious, no? Like,
It doesn't fit, no, because we jumping around like jackasses. We're jumping around and then we say something serious. People are like, "Why are you lecturing me, bro? Why are you lecturing me?" So, like, okay, sorry, I won't lecture you. That's just we'll make you dance. That's a lot better, no? That's what we like to do also.
But adding to that, like what you said, it's not a lecture. Your songs have a story to it. There's always some story to it, and to the point that your albums weave a story in them.
Yeah. See, that's the trick. No, see, right now what's happening is if you say something, then people are, how can you say this? One wing will say something, how can you say this? Another extreme will be like, how can you say that? How can you not say it? So I'm like, I didn't say it, my character said it. I didn't say anything. That's just story. Yeah, it's just a story. Like, if I have to say something, I'll put it inside of a character, and writing it into the character makes a lot more sense because you have that plausible deniability that you didn't say it. Only your character said it.
I didn't do it. Scrat did it. When I am in Scrat, I am like Chandramukhi, multiple personality disorder.
Yeah. Scrat is me. I am me. So it is like me talking to me through me.
To the me, which you are in me.
That is the point. That is it.
For all the listeners who didn't get the reference, that is the legendary Baba Nityananda. Oh, coming back now, like this Nityananda, you of course know Arjun from Nerve Wreck.
Yeah.
He
Of course. Yeah. He looks a lot like Nityananda. Does he look like Nityananda? No.
No.
He doesn't look like Nityananda.
He doesn't look like, but he has this character on stage called Metananda.
Oh yeah, correct. Nityananda. Yeah. Him and his shenanigans. He's been doing these shenanigans from the beginning of time. When he was in Chennai, and then now when he's in Bombay, he's killing it. So what a guy.
He's a super fun guy, man. Like we had a discussion. We spoke about his school stories from Rishi Valley to what he used to tell his teachers to his girlfriends and stuff. Oh my goodness.
Don't believe everything he says. Don't believe everything.
It's a lie.
No. Are you sure? No, I don't know. I'm telling you, I didn't say that. Samurai Badass said that. Plausible deniability.
Wow. Like from there, he recommended more music. Then he told about your best favorite band from Chennai, the RJD.
Chennai. Oh, wonderful band. I love that band. Such a good band.
So I'm not asking you now. I am asking Samurai Badass. What Samurai Badass think of the band?
Oh, RJD, is it? RJD is a wonderful band. The drummer, the guitarist and vocalist, the acoustic guitarist, vocalist of that band, actually, Mr. Ritesh John Dharmaraj, played in a band with me where he played the drums a band called Tales on Fire. And he was the drummer of the band, and he was the best singer of the band, but we didn't let him sing. So we just told him to play the drums. And he said, yeah, you can sing the best of all of us, so you play the drums. It's like, don't think of that. There's no chance. And then when RJD started, we always knew that he had to start at one point because he's a good songwriter. He can play the guitar, and he's always been a frontman, but always relegated to the back as a drummer. So it's nice to see him in front actually, and actually tell his story, which is good.
And even his new project is again a drummer.
Again he's a drummer. Yeah, he's a drummer only, but then in RJD he's a vocalist and guitarist. He's originally a drummer.
Now coming back, originally you are also a guitarist, and you've got a guitarist playing bass for you.
Yes. See, we love doing that in Chennai. See, if you are actually good at something, we'll be like, okay, you don't do that. You do something else that you're just going to start doing right now.
Hey, did you mean Kamala Hassan or what now?
Kamala Hassan, yeah, maybe. That's also true. Hey, no. Kamal Uncle is great. I like Kamal Uncle. Kamal Uncle is my favorite.
Seri, nambite. Like, but how come? Like, you had a 5-piece band. From there, you went on to become 4. Then you became 3.
Yeah.
I stalked you guys a lot. Don't.
So basically, the guitarist left, and I became the only. No, first the vocalist left, and I decided to sing. And then the guitarist left, and then we just decided, okay, screw it, we'll just play it with one guitar. That's basically it. that's we were just like, when the guitarist left, we actually had Abhinav from the F-16s play on the first album of Scrat, which is before the Big Guns. And after he decided to go to other things, and then we are like, we can't keep changing and like getting and auditioning people and all, man. Honestly, we did it because we didn't want to audition people. And we're just like, so even Janu, when he landed up, was great because Satish had just, was on his way. He had already told us he's going to move to Canada, stuff like that. And we're like, okay, what are we going to do? So Tapas and I were like, okay, are we going to audition? Are we going to go 2-piece? What's going to happen? So finally, one day I was sitting in the jam room, and Janu walked in with a bass saying, I am your new bass guitarist.
What? Just like that?
Yeah, I was like, I was stringing my guitar. I was like, oh, okay, because we had already played a couple of shows with him, because when Sat was ill or he was busy, and we had a show and we couldn't like get out of the show, Janu would come and step in and play. And he's actually played a few shows with us on tour, replacing Sat, just standing in for him. So it wasn't like something we needed to get used to when he landed up. Because as soon as he landed up, we'd always hang out in jam anyway. So the chemistry was already there. And even I was like, that was the logical choice, but we never thought of it because he's a guitarist. We never thought like we could go ask him to play bass. So we're like, okay,
it's
not
a
bad.
real question.
Yeah,
if you come to a guitarist and like, hey, bro, I know you play guitar, but I don't want that. Can you play bass?
I didn't ask him. Like, he came and he's like, I'm your bass guitarist. I was like, okay, like, it's great. There was no need for me to vet the CV, listen to them play, make them learn the songs, none of that nonsense. Because he's come and watched us play live multiple times. He's come to NH7 as a audience for Scrat, and has come and played with us live at Weekend. So it's sort of like you've been there and you've come here. And the one thing that actually blew my mind was how much that guy can jump. See, so that
true,
everything.
True.
Yeah, that guy is a firecracker on stage. So trying to keep up with him, I could like out jump Sat, but I can't out jump Janu. So I was just like, okay, cool, you jump, I'll sing and spin in circles and stuff.
No, I've seen him jump, man. Like, I completely agree. He's something else.
Yeah. I think he even hit his head a couple of times at smaller pub gigs, because there's a song called Stomp where I start the riff and he'll start bouncing, and if I play the riff slowly, you have to bounce higher. So I'll deliberately start it slowly, and then you'll just see him going boing, boing, and then at one point the instrument, boing, pat, and I could hear him hit his head on the ceiling, and I was just like, ah! And I played the riff wrong at the time because I heard that smack. And then he continued playing though. He went down and he was just like, oh, and then he started playing again.
But these basses are so crazy. Like, one of the other podcasts I did with a band from Vadodara called Dune Hut. So they have
Okay.
So what he used to do is, whenever like they are mostly into this acoustic gigs. and then the soft pop they do it.
Yeah.
So a previous artist, he left say a water bottle on stage. He'll start lining them up, and he'll ask the vocalist to spread his legs, and he'll kick the ball in between his legs, and he'll shout goal and continue playing in between the performance.
I think in an acoustic gig, that would be like a welcome, like everybody will be gently enjoying the show, and then suddenly goal, and everybody's like woo, and then we go back to gently enjoying the show.
Wow, man, wow. Like so much, like coming back, like Janu is playing for so much. Like he's in Urka, even Tapas is in Urka. He plays for so many people. And how do you guys find time for Scrat then?
I think these boys like the band, so that's the first thing.
You're not sure?
I think the reason is these boys like the band, and the Tapas is sort of like Tapas and I started the band at the beginning. So, and Janu's been a massive supporter of the band. So then when he came in and we did Bison with him, what happened was we didn't want him to replace Sat. Like that was the main thing, right? Like he should sort of. The band should be his sort of like want to be in, and Scrat honestly has to work that way. There is no way we can plan and schedule and anything. It has to happen generally as naturally as possible, because a band that hangs out together is the band that stays together. So if the boys usually before COVID we were hanging out weekly, like every week we'd be, at some time or the other we'd just meet up somewhere, and whether we were having instruments or not, we'd always be around each other. So I think that was the main, they themselves will call and be like, no, this is my one indie band that I want to sort of be in. They are very clear that they don't want to be a part of sort of any other English-based indie band. True. I mean, okay, because they're saying that they can give importance to one, but then but if they do get a good opportunity, they'll definitely do it. But right now they've seen Scrat as something that is sort of where they get that outlet. So this is more like an outlet. It's like after you finish work, Scrat's that game of tennis that you might play, or that's the gym workout. So it's a recreational activity.
So do you guys jump in jam room also while jamming?
Of course. Otherwise we won't be able to play correctly when you're doing it live, man. You have to practice the jumps.
Wow.
It's kind of like useless.
One Nair question, like a proper audience. Why do you do this Harris Jayaraj thing where you add some sounds in your song?
Yeah.
Like like what is this that you do in some, like that's of course I love it. I absolutely love it. It's so unique of Scrat.
Yeah.
Like, what is the idea? What do you think while you write it?
Because we like the tune of going boop 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 beep bop bop bop, and no words can actually be put in that sort of.
True.
We can't. It'll sound like an ad, like cool, baby, hot. No, it don't work. It'll be like a Voltas ad or something like that. So we can like cool, baby, hot. No, it won't work. No. So definitely, like it might as well just be boop boop boop, baby, bop bop bop, because who cares?
The inner sales guy in you is coming out. It seems to all the Voltas and ads.
Yeah. Wonderful product here, sir. Comes at a good price. I'll give you a great rate.
Do you really do that?
Yeah, that's my job. I have actually sold in Bombay also. So it was a very interesting experience. Spent 2012, 13. I stayed in Bombay and sold there at Dadar, Matunga, Lal Bagh, the entire south and mid Bombay, all the way up to Mahim.
Okay, so here's a challenge for you.
Yeah.
Explain Scrat and their music for next 2 minutes in Hindi.
Hindi? अरे यार, स्क्रैट नाम वाले एक बैंड है, वो बहुत अच्छा जबरदस्ती बैंड है।
पर
कमाल कमाल के बाद गाना गाता है। जिंदगी में सिर्फ एक बैंड है इसके तरह। एक टिकट मिलने पे 2 फ्री। कृपया आ जाइए। कोविड के बाद हमारा जबरदस्ती जिंदाबाद। शुक्रिया।
Wow. Wow. How did you survive in Bombay for 2 years, man?
Man, in Bombay, you need to know Marathi. I had no idea about Marathi. Like, so, see, Matunga is great. Most of them are Tamil. True. So I could just speak in Tamil. But also, sales is very easy because it's all about numbers. Yeah. So you just say 25, nahi, 25K, 7, 2, okay, very good. And then we'll go off.
Wow. Superb, man. Like, what's upcoming for you people? Like,
right now is to survive this incredible drought. The problem is, Scrat needs to be together to make music. We are not very good with this whole tracking and sending, and I mean we can do it, but it's sort of like we have to get the vibe of the song together. Meaning, if we have an idea, mostly we have to get together and start. You know, if you bring an idea to the table, we'll take that idea. It's just like a file now. So you just put that in our heads, and then we start playing. And then eventually, after about an hour of just playing on that idea without like stopping or talking or anything, we'll just keep going for a while. And that's when we'll kind of understand where the song is going. And that's when I'll also get the idea of what we're talking about. Like, if I come up with lyrics at the beginning and then play the song, like Samara Vedas, I had already written most of the structure before. But we had to literally seriously sit and work and make it that mad song because it used to be an acoustic song before, and so was Tin Can Man. So, and then you have something like Bison and Vineyard and stuff like that, where we sat and wrote it in pieces and actually wrote it together. And then you have songs like Siren, which is just, we started jamming until the song formed. This is like, okay, cool, the song's ready. But most of it has to have that. Like a little bit, we have to, once the idea comes, we have to sit and like rally with each other and say, okay, you like it? You like it? I like it. What are you playing? I like it. Very nice, very nice. It's okay. Everybody okay? This song is selected. Going once, going twice. Okay, the song is selected. We shall now work on the song to making sure, like, we won't ditch the song. We'll definitely sit and work on it. It'll become a priority for us. So we need to wait. And I think it's okay that we're not jamming in it right now. It's sort of like a forced hiatus. But we are doing a lot of prep and pre-production. So hopefully we will get some kind of album as soon as we can get together. You will be seeing a lot of releases from us soon.
Wow. Now that, of course, appreciate it. As a mayor, my audience will be confused as fuck. Like, what the hell is mayor? Because my subscriber base is majorly in Mumbai. It's very less, but still in Mumbai. Like,
please explain.
Mayor is audience. What else? Like, that's the only explanation.
Yeah, it's just it's the target audience.
Target audience.
Yeah.
Okay, here's an interesting question based on what you said. When you compose or write a song, how much do you think about the performance and the entertainment factor of that particular track? Or how much do you think about the song and musicality and the melody?
I think it's song, musicality, melody first. Whatever said and done, we have to feel good playing it, and then the fun happens. Like, so the fun never happens when we're writing the song. Like, it'll be fun for us, but it won't be we'll be thinking it. It'll be in our heads. We'll be like, automatically Tapas will do the correct stops and those things, and then he'll play something crazy, and I'll be like, oh my god, I'm just going to stop playing guitar here and just jump around. So yeah, I love that part so much that I'm going to just stop playing guitar. So that should be sort of where it comes. The idea of doing it for the music first, and then it will end up eventually, because we're trying to have fun. I told you, in a recreational activity. So we are. Yeah, so jam is a party. So we are never there sitting seriously going, okay, we got this song to do, we got that song to do, verse we've written, chorus you have to write, oh my god. So that's never the way we approach it. And that's why we're not able to do this whole like record and send thing also.
True, makes sense. Because like you said, you are playing, and maybe at that instinct Tapas might feel to do something. That thing won't happen with the track.
Yeah, it won't. And also we change the song till we record. Like every single part of the song will automatically change as we record, because we try and play the song in the jam room at least, like after we've written it, we try and play it at least about 20-30 times, like to see if we like want to play it. Like we should, at the end of the day, why do we do this? We do it to play live together. It's not just to create the music and have it being listened to. I want people to come watch us play, and that's when you'll sort of even understand what I'm saying, or you'll get the idea of I don't know how to recreate that energy in the recordings. We've always had trouble like that. We've never been able to recreate our live performance in recordings. So that's
that's an interesting point. Like, okay, while recording, you are not feeling that energy or that fun?
We don't. That's why the last album, Toby, our recording engineer, was very, very clear that he likes it very clean and very, very precise. But at that time, he actually decided that no, you guys play together. And so we played most of the songs, most of the track together. And then I recorded in my garage, the rest of it, the guitars and everything. And it was basically like a shed performance, and that sort of vibe. And that's why we were able to sort of get it a little bit more closer to our live set, because at least the main rhythm section was to play together.
That's an interesting approach, man. Like this issue I've heard with a lot of bands. They perform together, they are kick-ass, but somehow that energy doesn't come this way. So you record a live track first, and
and then we just put some sprinkles. Put some sprinkles over it. Just see if the guitars need to be sort of fixed or something, because you're playing together. And since you are going, and when you go on recordings, people want it to be correct. So we're like, okay, so how about we just make it, and be some stupid, silly mistake. So maybe just we will do one more layer over it, or not, or just do one part on the guitar or something like that, basically. So the important thing is to get your source sound really, really good when you're recording. That's sort of the most important thing. While you're recording, just make sure when the source is absolutely closest to what you want to sound like on the record. And then after that, the sound engineers got all the freedom to play with it and fix things and actually just package it to be put out.
Wow.
So,
that's a very interesting point. When my band was active, I never thought it in this way. Like, I like my sound, but that the idea of how do you want it to sound as a song? Get it close to that first.
We needed to sound not like three instruments together. We needed to sound like one massive instrument, and that's the kind of idea that needs to happen. And very strangely, right, when we play on click, so we recorded the songs on click, so we'll have click in our ears. All three of us will play on click together, but we don't do that live. So live, never gone click. So we don't need to, because we don't have any sequencing, or we don't have any tracks at the back that we need to follow. But sort of that we slow down in the chorus, maybe go faster in the break, which happens naturally. Sometimes the same song will go faster a little bit, but it'll naturally, organically move.
Right.
That we're not able to understand. Like, we choose a nice tempo that's easy, and then but it's just doesn't, like, there's something missing, and we always have an issue.
But like this, it raises an interesting point. When you compose a song, that is where you are optimum. Like, the fun is at the optimum. You are having fun at the best that you can. You have played 35 times in your jam room. But when you perform live, like you said, maybe the tempo maybe goes 5 BPM down or 10 BPM up.
Yeah. We go BPM down, 10 BPM up, and we're jamming in the jam room also. Even that subtle changes, right? We're never going to stick into... when we write the song, we don't write on click. So, and that probably is... for example, let's say there's a nice heavy drop coming in. Or say Raptor, we go ba 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 da 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 da. That section has to be slower. Like, it has to be. If it's the same tempo as the chorus, there's sort of something like, I feel that if you're always perfect, there's ear fatigue that starts happening. People get used to a constant click tempo, so your brain sort of doesn't recognize changes as much as if the changes were without the click. This is when it comes to us. Not based off of people who use tracks and everything like that, because they've created the dynamics in the click itself. We've got our dynamics are in our hands. So we won't be able to create swelling and drop. We have to sit and write it on click.
Right.
That's something we don't do. That's something we don't want to do, because again, this is a recreational activity. I don't want to go use trainer wheels when I ride a bike on the racetrack. It's for fun. I want to go do it for fun. And if that fun element is removed, it'll become work. And if it's work, then I'm already selling like chips. So that's work for me.
Hey, is that true? You sell chips?
Yeah, Fryam's chips. That's my main job.
I thought I read that article about you, and I thought you were saying just for fun, probably.
No, we sell chips. Chips is a very important, integral part of the human ecosystem. It has to be consumed. It's a part of a good diet. We make rice wala, we make many things.
Okay, I will go and buy chips now. You sold me chips.
Yeah, that's all. Buy two. One is unlucky.
One is unlucky. Yes, I'll buy 3.
Yeah, best.
What is your favorite band? Indie band?
From India.
Yeah, from India.
Okay. I think off the top of my head, if I'm just gonna say what my favorite indie band is, it's probably between Chaos from Kerala. Those guys are nuts. I love that band. There's a song called The Enemy, which is my most favorite song, and it's in my metal playlist for like workout and shit. It's my most favorite, and I love going to their gigs. They just nail it. And it's been a long time since I've yearned. All the metal bands became very serious and calculatorish after one point, and it was nice to hear like just riffage in your face, riffage and grimy guitar tone, and just like heavy and like proper pile foundation guys. No, I really like that. That's the kind of metal I like. So Chaos is definitely one of my most favorite bands. Then we've got so many, man. We've got Don Butt in Bombay, who still to date is one of my favorite artists.
Which one?
Yeah, Don Butt. D-O-N-B. Yeah, P-H-A-D-T. So Don Butt. So Anant is insane, and they have a sister project called Ija, which is also fantastic. And you've got, they have 6 teams from Chennai, our own Chennai boys, who are pretty phenomenal. Sometimes a little sugary, but it's fine. And then there's one band that I really miss. It's a band called Grammy Winning Effort. They're from Delhi. Yeah, and that Suyash Gabriel is such a beast on the drums, and it's insane. Like he's just, oh my god, what a guy! Dude. Like he's fantastic.
On the topic of bands I miss,
where
is Tales on Fire?
What is Tales on Fire?
You were Tales on Fire. You were in Tales on Fire with your dude. I can't tell you, man.
The vocalist went off to Bombay. He's in Bombay.
I know, Karan.
Yeah, Karan's in Bombay. This one, RJD is happening. And then there's another band called Wax.
Yes.
BACX in Chennai that's going on. And so Tales will happen, I guess. I don't know. we are just
I called Karan. I asked him to
I think season is over.
Yeah. And he said the band is more or less retired. He retired you guys.
Yeah, he's retired. Hey, he only owns the band, man. I'm just a guitarist of that band.
I love Tales on Fire songs, man. Because I'll tell you, when I found the song, like when Arjun suggested me RJD, I looked for RJD. I found Tales on Fire. This is happening at 2 a.m.
Oh, fantastic. And then you suddenly heard one nice soft RJD and then one heavy Tales on Fire.
Because from 2 to around 5, I didn't sleep that night. 5 a.m. out, I realized I have been hearing the 5-6 songs that you guys put on repeat. Listening on repeat. Because, like, the songs, like, one of the songs, like, that goes.
Yeah, Pyro.
Monkey Messiah.
Monkey Messiah. Oh yeah, correct. Like that band's a great fun band to play with. It's like our guilty pleasure band to go and play our 90s feels and the heaviness and the jumping and the rap and all that. So.
And then happiness is a drug. What is that called?
Happiness is a headshot.
Happiness is a headshot. and wow, man, like I was so much in love with that sound and the whole music. And then I saw, like, is that Sriram? That doesn't look like Sriram. Because you were looking different. Because what I saw from Scratch was, and there you were different. And I was like, then I went and I was like, okay, yeah, it is him.
It is. It's the same guy.
I was like, okay, now it makes sense why I like the band also. Because they refresh the style of playing. Of course, the inherent sound is definitely there, right?
Yeah.
Like, if possible, to guys, please get back Tales on Fire.
I'm sure we'll keep doing these reunion shows every year, maybe once or twice when we get together. You see, even that band, we want to get together to hang out and have fun. And when we do that, we'll just be like, we'll put off one show. So, and probably do something like that.
Oh, wow. Like, Macha, you're here. There is a venue. I have a guitar.
Yeah.
You wanna come?
Yeah, can we do this? Hey, how are you doing, man? Long time no see. Here, have a beer. We play on show. Okay, cool. Let's go play on show. Finish the show, come back and have some fun.
One more question. Like now, this is like we're getting into the proper questioning format. I know that you guys one night saw a bison under some light and you named the album Bison.
Yeah.
Where does this name come from? And why did you name your band Scrat?
Okay, see, so we don't know. We actually didn't know what's the band's name. Okay, I'm actually going to tell you the truth because most of the time we just bullshit answers for this question. Everybody asks us, how did the name Scrat come? From your mom. So what else? I don't want to ask the same question, but this time I'll tell you the truth. We actually didn't name the band Scrat. I was talking to Tapas on MSN Messenger at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And, back in the day. and we were like, hey, we formed the band, we wrote songs, but we hadn't named the band yet. But we got the show.
Okay.
Like we formed on July 15th. We got our first show July 21st.
Okay.
So like, okay, we need to go and give a name or something like that. So we came up with some rubbish names, some racket, Arya, then distilled sound. It's some crap like that, some horrible. So we were like all rejected. I was saying random things like bazooka, racket, tennis racket, random, just whatever came to my head. And we were like, okay, screw it. And then while saying this, so MSN Messenger days, we just have MSN Messenger on and we'll just keep like typing. We'll go somewhere and then we'll come back and we'll just type on that, send it, and then we'll go back, do other things. So those days we were watching TV. We were watching Ice Age, and Tapas was watching Ice Age also. So immediately as we were watching Ice Age, so I started just randomly naming Ice Age characters. So like Manny the Moody Mammoth, Manny Melancholy, and then Sid. And we didn't want to call the band Sid because the vocalist name was Siddharth Hande at the time.
Okay.
Then it'll become him.
Huh.
No. So we can't call him Sid. Diego. It won't work in India. Diego.
Maybe Diego, probably.
Diego. But that's what they'll say. Hello. Already Scratch they mispronounce. Hello, is Scratch Crotch. Is crap here? Crap is crap. which is this? So we just basically decided to, and then I just randomly said Scrat, and then Tapas said good night. Like we just said, okay, good night, I'm gonna go. So back in the day, we used to say good night and all before going to sleep. So very sweetly. And then we forgot all about it. And then we landed up at the show. We've completely forgot about this whole conversation we had. So we landed up at the show and we said, okay, we'll just say the name has not been announced yet. And inherently, we were opening for Nervek. That was our first show. So and Nervek would get like 200 people inside that Unwind Center. So what we did was we said, okay, we landed up for sound check and we saw the poster. The poster had Nervek, Scrat. What is Scrat? I thought there were only one band opening. Who's the Scrat that's opening? So I'm like, okay, we'll go in and figure it out. Maybe they just got another band to join in on this whole thing.
You didn't recognize your own band, eh?
No, I mean, like, we didn't even name it, no, yet. I forgot that we were watching Ice Age only. Who will remember that you're watching a movie and saying random things on MSN? So then finally, we went on. When we were on stage, Eddie from Unwind at the time said, so next up, introducing Scrat. And we're like, oh, that's us. Oh, shit. And it was 200 people so they all heard the band name now. So like, okay, that's our band name. And we actually liked it because it was and I liked the fact that he went Scrat. We're like, oh man, yeah, too good.
that whole firecracker thing, that whole energy was there. Scrat.
Yeah, that time we were not firecrackers. That time we were bloody useless.
What was the first song you performed at that time?
The first ever song we played live ever was I think we started off with we started off with Foo Fighters. Learn to Fly.
Okay.
That was the first song we played.
And what is your first original song that you ever performed?
In the same show, first song was an original called Holding On, and it was then scrapped because it was written with the earlier vocalist and stuff like that.